If you are cutting out gluten from your kids' diet to treat their eczema, stop. You need to hear this. Eczema, also known as atopic dermatitis, is first and foremost a skin condition where the skin barrier is unable to hold on to moisture. It is actually not a food allergy or an allergy to something that comes into contact with your skin directly. And so you don't need to treat eczema with food restriction. I'm Dr. Mina. Welcome to my channel, The Skin Real, where I help real people get real information and education about their skin health so that they can make informed decisions. This is my weekly recap episode where I break down my key takeaways from my most recent interview. This week on The Skin Real, I spoke with Dr. Luke Johnson. He's a pediatric dermatologist who practices at the University of Utah. He's also co-host of the wildly popular dermatology podcast known as Dermosphere. And I was thrilled to speak with him about all things summer skincare, from sunscreen, what's safe, what's hype, to treating bug bites, treating eczema, and what kids really need for their skin essentials. And it might surprise you. If you want to hear the full episode, be sure to check it out after this quick recap video, and I will link it at the end. Summer doesn't have to be stressful with your kids' skincare, and I'm going to show you how in this recap. Number one, we can't talk about summer, really can't have a dermatology video without talking about sunscreen. It's so important. The summer, everyone's outdoors. We're spending a lot of time outside. It's wonderful. I'm going to the beach shortly. And it's important to do these activities and to have fun and to live your life. But you got to be smart about sun protection. And with children, there's no exception. So now you may be worried about using certain sunscreens on your children, and maybe you're worried about using it on yourself as well. I love that Dr. Johnson broke down that really use a sunscreen. He doesn't really care which one you use as long as you are putting sunscreen on your children. Now, there have been some reports back in, I believe it was 2016, a study showed that sunscreens, chemical sunscreens, were actually absorbed into the bloodstream, and this made a lot of people worried. The thing to remember is that this did not show any harm, and we do know things get absorbed through our skin. So simply because it's absorbed does not mean it's dangerous or harmful. But no studies have shown that when used appropriately, sunscreen applied to the skin causes any harm. And we have abundant research and data showing the damaging effects of not wearing sunscreen. So if you feel more comfortable omitting chemical sunscreens from your life and your kid's life, then by all means, opt for things like zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. These work wonderfully. They are making better ones nowadays that don't always leave that white chalky residue on the skin, but I don't want you to not use any sunscreen because you can't find a physical blocker you like. Here's a pro tip. Zinc sunscreen titanium dioxide can be tricky to get off in the summer, especially those water-resistant ones as well. So this is when I do a double cleanse, and I will have some oil-based cleanser for my children to use in the shower so that they can really get that sunscreen off, that zinc and titanium sunscreen that can be tricky to wash off. So any sunscreen is better than no sunscreen, but also don't forget sun protective clothing. I do feel like we're better with our kids than ourselves when it comes to sun protection, especially little babies. I see them covered in those little rash guards. They look adorable, but this is important for kids of all ages and for ourselves. So encourage your children or buy them a rash guard, like the long sleeve, the short sleeve if you can't get them into a long sleeve. And maybe let them have some fun with it. Maybe pick out the color or the pattern, something fun that they like. But wearing a rash guard is really one of my favorite tricks for the beach, because you don't have to catch your children and rub them down when they're sweaty and then sand gets on it and it's a whole big fight, right? Ask me how I know. So I do love sun protective clothing. I think it's great. A hat, of course. Bucket hats are really cool. My children are really into that. So bucket hats are great because it protects the ears, but any hat with a brim is great. A baseball cap, it's not ideal, but heck, it's better than nothing. If that's all you get them to wear, I'd still be okay with it. In fact, my son wears a baseball cap. So again, do the best you can. We're not looking for perfection here. We are just trying to help establish some healthy sun protective habits for our little ones. And the guidelines for babies is that really under 6 months, not to be putting sunscreen on them at all, just to use physical blockers, put the shade cover on their strollers up, make sure they're wearing little hats and things like that. They're not sitting in the sun. Don't be like my parents. I'm going to tattle on it, but when I was 2 weeks old, I was born on an island and I went to Hawaii and I had got a sunburn and I had freckles on my nose. So don't do that to your 2-week-old. Make sure to sun protect. Although Dr. Johnson says, look, if you want to put a zinc or titanium sunscreen on a baby who's a couple months old, he sees no harm in that because really zinc is what's in a lot of these diaper rashes. If you look at it, it's a zinc paste to protect from diaper rash. So if it's safe to use for that, it's most likely safe to use on your baby's skin. But technically, the guidelines say under 6 months, just use sun protective measures other than sunscreen. Number 2, that's super important in the summer, is what to do about bug bites. Okay, I'm struggling with bug bites. My children have some big chigger bites on them. And this is just part of summer, right? Mosquitoes and bugs, ticks, especially in certain areas. So you want to be careful. So number 1, bug spray, you've got to use something with DEET. I know a lot of people, they see that word, they think it sounds scary. They're nervous about putting it on their kid's skin, but really it's the safest thing you can do. And certainly if you live somewhere where there are serious mosquito-borne diseases, you really need DEET. I know the citronella candles, they smell good and it sounds more appealing to use something like that, but really they don't do a great job really keeping the mosquitoes away. So use a DEET containing bug spray. I like to just spray it like when my kids were little, I would spray it on the stroller or the awning of the stroller. I would spray it on their clothing so it wasn't right in their skin in case they put their fingers in their mouth or they ate something or got it in their eyes. I would just put it on their clothing. In fact, I still kind of do that for myself too because I don't love how it feels on my skin. Another tip is to have fans. When air is circulating, mosquitoes are not as prevalent. And then just make sure you get rid of standing water. If you have a lot of standing water in your yard is going to have a lot of mosquitoes. So just keep that in mind as well. If you are going hiking, ideally you wear long pants, you pull your socks over your pants, and you don't have any exposed skin, especially if you are walking through brush that's brushing against your legs. You're not on a trail that's kind of nicely cleared for you. But if you are wearing shorts, and really even if you aren't, you should check your skin over to make sure you don't see any little ticks stuck on. Look on your children's skin and even look on your pet's skin. They can actually get tick bite as well. So just things to keep in mind when you're outdoors, when you're hiking this summer. Now, let's talk about eczema, which I alluded to in the beginning, about it not being a food allergy. I see this a lot. I don't personally treat a lot of children with eczema, but I hear this from friends, family, patients, that they feel that their child's eczema is caused by food. And so they're very restrictive on what the child can eat. And Dr. Johnson really made a point to say it is a skin condition. Eczema is a skin condition. It's not related to food. You want to see a dermatologist for your eczema, not an allergist. Allergists are the ones who treat food-related conditions, but your dermatologist is the one who's going to treat eczema. Sometimes eczema can flare in the summer. For others, it gets better. So each kid is going to be different. But eczema is an issue with the skin barrier. It cannot hold on to moisture as well. So it becomes really dry and cracked. It itches. Then kids scratch, and then bacteria can get in and other things can get in, which normally should be prevented by the skin barrier. But the skin barrier is now damaged. So please don't be food restrictive to your kids. Let them eat a balanced diet, healthy plants and vegetables and fruits. And if you are concerned about a true food allergy, then see an allergist for testing to see if that could be causing a separate food allergy. Now, how should you be treating your eczema? So what should you do if your child is having a flare of their eczema this summer? First off, realize it is okay for them to get wet and to bathe. They don't even have to use soap if their skin is really irritated and inflamed. You can just use the soap in areas like hands, the genital area, the bottom or bottoms of the feet. You don't have to use soap on the whole body. Just having the water splash over the skin can be really helpful. And that water is going to actually help the skin retain more moisture. So a soak and a bath is perfect and amazing, better than a shower if you can do it. Then, when the skin is really still damp, that is when you smear on a thick ointment-like product like petrolatum, which is essentially Vaseline. Aquaphor has some lanolin, so you just want to be careful with that. But it's called the soak and smear. Soak in the tub when the skin is damp, towel off just a little bit, and then smear on that Vaseline or petrolatum to lock in the moisture for these kids. If there are any areas that are really flared and you're using medication, you want to do that first before you lock it in with the ointment. Now, let's just talk about bleach baths, because sometimes when I say bleach bath, I get these wide eyes like, what are you telling me? That sounds super harsh. And you want me to do that? And even worse, you want me to do this for my child? It sounds scary, but just think about it. Basically, a swimming pool is a very highly concentrated bleach bath with chlorine. And that's to kill any bacteria that's in there. So the bleach bath we're talking about for your child with eczema is really very, very mild. So you take a full tub and you add in half a cup of bleach. If you are just doing a sink, it's going to be less than that, maybe even just a capful. And then it's very mild. It should not burn or sting and really shouldn't even have that strong a smell. You soak in the bleach bath for about 10 minutes, then you get out and then you smear on the ointment or your thick moisturizer. I personally think bleach baths are amazing. I have seen it really help calm the skin down. The thought is that it kills bacteria like staph that live on our skin and helps lower the burden of staph, which can sometimes be elevated in children who have eczema. So don't be scared of bleach baths if your dermatologist recommends it. And lastly, summer, kids have more time on their hands. They may be wanting to get into some skincare things. It's important to let your kids have some fun with skincare, but just to be smart about it. So most children need is a gentle cleanser, a sunscreen, and I let my kids pick out the one they want to use so that they are more inclined to use it because they like how it feels. Just like us, they need to like how it feels on their skin or they won't put it on. And then a moisturizer if their skin is dry on the dry side. And that's really it. If your child is struggling with things like eczema or psoriasis or acne, then they can add in a few things to target those specifically. But your child does not need to be doing an anti-aging routine and they don't need to be boosting their collagen, since it's literally at the prime of their life. Hopefully that gave you some good tips for how to take care of your kids' skin this summer. It doesn't have to be stressful, summer vibes only, but you can keep your kids' skin safe and healthy with a few little tweaks and tips this summer. If you want to hear the full episode, be sure to check it out here, and I will see you next week.